I'm Kelly Worthman in the CBS4 Denver studio. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused historic job losses across the country. Thousands of Coloradans are still struggling with unemployment a year later. We have covered this issue extensively here on CBS4 Denver, and perhaps no one has taken a deeper dive into the unemployment crisis more so than CBS4 investigator Katie Weiss. She's joining us now. And Katie, I know you have reported on all sides of this, from the hardest hit industries to the difficulties of getting unemployment benefits, and of course now the ongoing fraud. And you're still getting calls for help from jobless Coloradans.
Yeah, Kelly, thanks so much for having me on. We get dozens of emails daily, I would say at this point, from people who are still struggling. I'm doing my best to try to respond to everybody with helpful contacts, information that they could use to try to get their claims situated. And so far, I'm learning that some of my responses are helpful, so that's definitely encouraging. But I think that there's still a huge need, and there's still a big issue here for folks trying to get their unemployment claims figured out.
You know, Katie, one of the more surprising things that I have learned through your investigative reporting is actually why the State Department of Labor seems to be struggling to process the thousands of unemployment claims. Apparently, their insurance system technology is from the 80s. I'm curious, did this shock you? And is this outdated tech still impacting claims now?
That's a great question, Kelly. So yeah, back in November, I issued an open records request for internal emails from the department, and that's when we learned that the department was working on 1980s technology. The director even told me that it was something akin to chicken wire and duct tape. He was very candid about that, and really it was caused by insufficient funding. I've even spoken with some lawmakers who have since admitted that, yeah, maybe we should have provided more funding to the department earlier on so they would be better prepared, better equipped for a pandemic response. But nonetheless, that's something that they were dealing with. And so then in January, the department began this major tech upgrade, but then that upgrade process then caused a delay for thousands of claimants to get their pandemic unemployment assistance. So it's certainly been a mess during this pandemic.
Well, Katie, you and I both know there are many layers to the pandemic and its widespread impact. Why was and is it important for you to investigate unemployment here?
Well, I think just getting these emails, getting phone calls, really, they started back in August of last year. And so as we were getting emails and calls from viewers of people who were struggling, for me, I felt like it was certainly a worthy cause to investigate. You know, the whole reason why I got into this business is try to help people in our community, right? You know, our reporting should have some kind of an impact. And I thought that this was certainly one way that we could try to make a difference for folks.
Has anything surprised you during your investigative journey, if you will, into unemployment?
Yeah, so in looking at the major fraud issue that the department has been facing and has been working to combat, the department has hired this company called ID.me, which several states have hired to verify people's identity to make sure that they are not fraudsters. And I've learned that ID.me has been dealing with a lot of international crime rings from Russia and other countries who are basically trying to bypass the system or you know, trick the system so that way they can still steal unemployment money. And I would say that it's pretty surprising that some criminals are even going so far as to wear masks in the video identification process. They're pretty elaborate, like costume masks, something you might even see at Halloween, you know, when you see maybe a George Bush president mask, something like that. It's pretty funny that, you know, criminals are going that far to try to steal our unemployment money.
I mean, those are the different kind of masks and we're all accustomed to wearing these days. And yeah, you're right. I mean, people are clearly going as far as they can to scam people with or without a pandemic. But now seems to be one of those times that people are taking advantage of others. Now, Katie, you've helped find solutions for several people who are out of work, but we know many more are still facing an uphill unemployment battle. At this point, what would you say they should expect?
Well, you know, first of all, if you've received a request to verify your identity, you've got to go through the ID.me process. I've learned that it is very tricky. You might expect to wait at least 5 hours if you aren't able to upload your documents right away. If you're having problems with the automated process, you're going to have to wait about 5 hours to get a video chat helper with ID Me. Now, once you go through the ID Me verification process, I've also learned that it could take several weeks before the unemployment department then recognizes that your identity has been verified. So you could expect to wait even longer as well. And that's actually something that we're starting to look further into, and we'll be doing more reporting on in the coming weeks as far as why that's taking so long and what the holdup is there.
Well, you got a lot of work ahead of you. CBS4 investigator Katie Weiss, we appreciate you taking your time out of your busy day, busier day than I'm sure you're used to having at this point. Thank you for taking time to share your work with us. Now, if you would like to send Katie or our CBS4i team a news tip, you can call our tip line at 303-863-TIPS. You can